right now.
You're so amazing. We might just give it another minute or so. I'm trying to think if there's anything I need to tell you guys. I don't think so. I was saying to Karen before you guys all came on, and Rachel knows this because she's been a guest, that we're very informal. Everything's very organic, the way that we flow. I'll ask you questions and, you know, let you know what we're hoping you might contribute at what time. So
great.
Right? You all have your books, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey,
Don't leave home without it. That's what
Marlena, is that right? Am I saying it right? Marlena?
Yes.
Welcome back.
Marlena, yes.
Marlena.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. We're going to get started
Thank you.
in just a minute. Oh, what a fun picture that is. Look at Corey.
Oh my gosh, that's my friend Corey.
Whose friend?
My friend.
Your friend. She's so cute, isn't she?
She's an amazing woman. Yes, there she is.
Hello.
So is this going to be going live?
No, this is on Zoom. And then we, so people who are here, it's live for, but no, this is on Zoom.
Okay, gotcha.
And then we have the replay available so that hopefully if people want to share it with their communities afterwards. Hey, Nita, good to see you.
Hi, hold on. Video's off. My video always starts as off. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Nita.
Kind of dark. Sorry. Is that better? That's a little better.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there's Debbie. Yay. Who else here? The gang's all here. Yay.
Gang's all here.
Amanda, yay. Rachel, I've seen you before. Yay. Lots of old and new friends. Yay. Okay, home now. Bye.
Oh, you guys. Okay, maybe we'll officially get started. I'm Sherry Reichert-Bellou, and my book is Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the most important people in your life. And I am so happy to have our 3 guest authors. We have Chelsea and Irene and Karen. And I'm going to have each of them tell you a little bit about who they are. And oh, hi, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
Hello.
Always good to see Brenda.
Always good to see you.
Yay, we're just getting started. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is have our 3 guest authors introduce yourselves, tell us where you live, and if you'd hold up your book and tell us the name and subtitle of your book and a little bit about your book so that we get a sense of who you are. Chelsea, since you just got launched yesterday.
Oh, congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was very exciting to have the launch out. And here is a copy of my book, The Sudden Loss Survival Guide, 7 Essential Practices for Healing Grief. And unfortunately, it's quite timely right now with everything that we have going on with more sudden loss, unexpected loss. So for my book, it's essentially a how-to manual to help people survive, cope, and ultimately heal from sudden loss. And it's really the handbook I wished I would have had when my parents passed away many years ago. So it's like I learned everything the hard way. So I feel by sharing all the information, all the research I've done over many years, I'm hoping to make the process less burdensome for people. Because I think when you have the support, knowledge, understanding, your grief experience can be better because you're setting the foundation for healing. And ultimately, it'll help you engage in life again and find more profound, deeper meaning, because these losses that break us open, it's our opportunity for growth, whether or not we want it. I mean, we really don't want this to happen, but then the opportunity, change of perspective comes.
Wow. Wow, Chelsea, thank you so much. I can't wait to hear some more of what you have to share because obviously, yeah, unfortunately right on topic. And again, congratulations. It's so
Thank
wonderful
you.
to have you here the week your book launches. That's such a gift for us. So thanks. Yeah, so Karen, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about your book?
Sure.
So yeah, I'm Karen, Karen C. Anderson, that's who I am. And my newest book with Mango is Overcoming Creative Anxiety, Prompts and Practices for Disarming Your Inner Critic and Allowing, I was gonna say allowing anxiety, allowing creativity to flow. And yeah, this is my third book with Mango, and it's not actually out yet. It'll be out on June 16th. So, you know, about 3 weeks from now, I suppose. And it's really funny because when Brenda asked me to write this book, immediately I was like, what? Who, me? Like, what, are you kidding me? You know, like, I'm not the person to write this book. And so it was like a very meta experience for me to then to write this. And so it's full of, it's sort of split up into three main categories, where in the first sort of section, you get to know your inner critic in a way that maybe you hadn't ever considered getting to know your inner critic. And there are parts of it that might be a little confronting, but it's ultimately very fun. And getting to know your inner critic can be very helpful. And because, you know, our critic, the critical part of our brain, is the like the oldest part of our brain. It's the most experienced part of our brain. What's not quite so experienced is what I call our inner advocate. And so that's the next part of the sort of next section of the book, is prompts and practices for really getting to know your inner advocate and nurturing that voice, so that you have a nice counterbalance to the critic. And then finally, it's about really understanding your creative self and learning how to summon emotion intentionally in your body on purpose, so that you can put forth your, whatever it is that you want to create. And I define creativity as being going way beyond you know, artistic endeavors. You know, it's you know, I mean, we're right now creating this experience, right? And we create our relationships, and we create all kinds of, you know, little micro moments in our lives. So it's not just for like arts and crafts.
Karen, I love that you use that expanded definition. I was just talking to someone the other day about that creativity is so much bigger than what a lot of us think. And it's so beautiful. I also like that you said it could be fun to get to know our inner critic.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you going to say something else?
Probably, but I forgot what it was. It'll come back.
All right, we'll come back again. So hi, Irene, welcome.
Hi, oh, thank you. Thank you. A pleasure to be here. And my name's Irene O'Garden. I live in the Hudson Valley, which is about 60 miles north of New York City. We spent some time in the city many years ago, but we've been up in this more rural and beautifully treed and meadowed area for quite some time. And my book is Glad to Be Human, which I am. And it too, Chelsea, just launched yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And thank you. And I'm really tickled about this book. What it is exactly what the cover says. Glad to Be Human: Adventures in Optimism. And this viewpoint of mine has been in the works for many, many years. And I have written several types of things about it. And when Brenda, God bless her, asked me for a book of my collected essays, I said, well, funny you should ask that, because I do have some. And so the book is divided into very short essays, longer essays, most of which are travel pieces that my reflections on, you know, Budapest or Paris or whatever, where my husband and I have traveled. And then reflective pieces about, for example, 9/11. And because I think all of these things are part of what make us human beings. So it's not all the la-di-da kind of stuff, but it's about how do you really nurture a very practical optimism in yourself, living in a world that contains a wide variety of headlines. And cumulative essay in the book is titled Glad to Be Human, and it won the Pushcart Prize. So that's kind of how the whole book is building toward that essay. So.
Wow, congratulations, Irene.
Thank you. Thank
Wonderful
you.
to get to have you here. I feel like we're going to have such a juicy time today. Like, awesome. So thank you all for introducing yourselves. And we're going to go around again. And what I would love to hear from you, obviously we are in a specific moment of time, a very challenging time for many people. And partly why we wanted to put together these panels is with so much wisdom in this Mango publishing community, we wanted our authors to be able to share. We'll start with the ways that you've been really taking care of yourself during these times. So some of your own tips for how you're staying positive, how you're staying really compassionate and open-hearted during this time. So Chelsea, do you want to share some things for us about how you've been taking care of yourself?
Sure. Well, with a new book coming out, of course, you know, I was a little nervous, and all the emotions that go with it, because you don't know how it'll be received. So I really had to work on some of my inner game to keep myself regulated, to make sure my thoughts were accurate. So one of the things I typically do, and I have for a long time, because it works a lot with grief support people, and really with any type of emotion, is I like to ask myself, is this thought 100% true? Because typically it is not, and that comes from different like therapists I've worked with and different people I've studied, and I think it's from Byron Katie's work originally where the question comes through. But you could be telling yourself anything like, oh, it's always going to be this bad. You know, I'm just using that because grief people like to say that, or I'm always going to be stuck at home. Well, is that 100% true? No, it probably isn't. So that's just kind of like a quick question I like to use. But the reason I like to use it is because our thoughts affect our emotions. So if we can prevent ourselves from spiraling down into those emotions that we don't want to feel at this particular time, like if we're at work or we're trying to accomplish things. So that's one way I take myself out of it. And I'm all in favor of experiencing emotions and moving towards them, embracing your pain. But at certain times, you don't want to, you know, depending what's happening. So that's kind of my trick. So, so like, for example, if you guys, I'll do it quickly. If you think of a thought in your head, like an unpleasant thought you're having today, whatever it might be, you could just be like, okay, what am I telling myself right now? Like you might be saying, oh, I'm going to suck on camera. I'll look horrible on camera. You know, I'm just making that one up. Do you know this is 100% true? Well, no, because other people could perceive me differently. How do you feel when you think that thought? Like you can say to yourself, the thought you're having right now, how do I feel when I think that? Well, probably not good. That's not helping my self-esteem or whatever thought. You know, I'm just kind of making this up. And then you can say, well, if I never felt this way again, how would that feel? Well, that would feel great. That would feel awesome. And then the last question is, what's the exact opposite of this thought? So whatever you're thinking, immediately turn around. But really the quick way to do it is this thought 100% true? So you're just checking in the narrative in your head. And I think this is critical with the pandemic going on, because people, their thought processes are going crazy because we're kind of in fear, uncertainty. And I know it's getting better, but initially when this happened, a lot of stuff was coming up we're not used to. So it's just, you know, a tool you can use. And I like it for me because so many of the thoughts we think are untrue, they're conditioned, whatever. So this is a way to get yourself in check.
Chelsea, that's really wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you for bringing us something, you know, it's so practical and it's something that we can do in any moment, right? Nobody even has to know that we're practicing what you're teaching us. And I love that, you know, we could do it really quickly. And that was great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Karen, how about you? How are you taking care of yourself during this time?
Well, interestingly, very similarly, one of my favorite questions to ask myself is, what are you making that mean? Right? What are you making it mean that you know, whatever is happening out there. But interestingly, I count myself as very lucky. I've worked at home for over 20 years. I don't have children. So not much has changed for me.
Yeah.
But the one thing that has changed, and that I have sort of recognized fairly recently actually, is I've been more creative, more productive, more like on fire and alive than it feels like I've ever been. And I think part of it is sort of this permission that I've given myself. And it was sort of like I didn't realize that I hadn't given myself permission before the pandemic. But like, it's like, I get to stay home now. Like, there's no pressure to like go and pretend that I'm something other than what I am.
Wow.
And so that, you know, giving myself permission, or giving yourself permission to be however it is you want to show up in this moment, in this period of time. And then along with that, I'm a real fan of somatic practices, which help get us in our bodies. And I'm not a, you know, I'm not a certified practitioner or anything like that, but I've learned a few things and have been actually very grateful to the Somatic Experiencing Institute for allowing me to use some of their practices in my books, to like explain them in my books. And a very, very, very simple one is to just simply assert your presence in the present moment by just saying, you know what, hey, I'm Karen Anderson. It is May 20th. It's 4:47 here on the southeastern Connecticut shoreline, and I am alive.
Oh,
That tells my body, my nervous system that, you know, all is fine.
wow. This was such a beautiful, pleasant surprise what you just did. I love that. And again, you know, it's so simple.
Yeah.
I really so appreciate that you guys are bringing such, you know, like these tools that people can take away immediately. Love that.
Simply also just a hand over the heart
Mm.
is also just very calming
Mm.
for the nervous system.
It's really nice.
And why does that calm our nervous system?
I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. As long as it works, who cares?
I think it's I don't know why it does, but it does.
Sure.
I can attest to it right now. I'm doing it. It's maybe it's also, you know, and this just occurred to me in these times where I know personally there's a lot fewer people I am touching, right? I'm only the people that are in my house with me. And it's such a beautiful thing just to have that human touch. You know, there's something so calming. We are social animals, and who knows? But I also love what you said, Karen, about permission. And I have found that for myself too. Something happened where first of all, it was just permission to serve. And I sort of felt like I was able to get out of my own way of, you know, am I enough? Am I good enough? And it was more like, what can I do? You know, and that sort of really helped me to just have the permission I think I've long wanted to just step in and do things that I wanted to offer to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you said that. That was beautiful.
I have a question for both of you ladies. How did you give yourself permission?
Do you want to go, Karen?
It was sort of a hindsight thing. You know, it was like it was sort of like I recognized that all this time I hadn't been giving myself permission. And so then it was like, oh, you know, once you realize that you've been sort of making a choice, even if it's unconscious, you can then say, okay, well, if I wasn't giving myself permission before, now I can. So it's sort of like an understanding it as a choice.
Ooh, that's nice. Yeah. And you know, Chelsea, for me, I was really fortunate. I have a business mentor, Brendan Burchard, and I have a spiritual mentor, Sherry Huber. Both of them very early on, even before the lockdowns happened, had calls with their closest communities. And both of them, it was interesting. They're very different, but they both said the same thing. You know, this is what we've been training for. You know, if you have the presence, you have the heart, if you have the compassion right now to show up, please do. And so I actually feel as if it wasn't even so much that they gave me permission, but they said, you know, please go serve. And that opened up the permission for me, because I have respect them so much and was like, yeah, that's true. I've learned so much from so many amazing teachers. Who am I you know, to hold back?
Mhm.
Thank you for that. That was a fun question.
Yeah.
Irene, you want to jump in with?
Well, this is just such a panel of wisdom. All the things that you're all saying, I totally go with. I do think it's a time where we are being called on to become more conscious. And it's also a time I have noticed there have been a couple of really big challenges for me. One of them is all of this screen time. You know, everything, every interaction now, it seems, has to happen on screen. And we're very blessed to be able to do this and to have that. But if you're seeing your friends on Zoom and you're having your work meetings on Zoom and you are, you know, trying to make sense of everything, still in these wonderful little tiles that we're all looking at, and then trying to process information, trying to go like, well, what's the news? Don't go there too much. But oh my gosh, I want to be there to support my friends on Facebook who are blah, 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 blah. So for me, that idea of serving sometimes gets exploded to such a big thing because there is so much need right now. So what I do, I really try to attend to the physical instrument. I really am taking as good care of myself as I possibly can physically. I'm making sure I'm getting exercise. It's a great stress reliever for me. I'm making sure that my nutrition is really good. I'm making sure that I take time for stillness and also to listen in and kind of calibrate. Well, what is it? You know, for a while I was doing like this daily meditation with a group of people, but what was happening, and I enjoy meditating. It's a really good practice for me, but in the context that it was happening in, people are like, okay, when the feelings of fear and doubt and scaredness come up, and it's like, I felt like they were programming more bad feelings, but with the earnest attempt to calm everybody down. But it's like, no, I don't even need that much. Let me just, I can do it quietly myself. So it's being very sensitive to the rivers of emotion that are going through us, and and taking physical care, being in touch with the people we love, and also knowing that this is the most remarkable time period. Wow. You know, that is calling from us astonishing things.
Oh, Irene. And I have to tell you, we've never met before, but when you popped on, I was like, oh, I was just so happy to see you. You have this radiance that now that you're speaking about the way that you're taking care of yourself, I think that's a part of what you're giving is this radiance.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, I think energy is such a gift, and especially right now when people tune in and they see someone who's obviously taking good care and healthy, you know, it's, you don't even have to say anything sometimes, right? It's that. So
oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. Yeah. So maybe I'll pause for a moment and see if any of our people who are here wanted to pop in and say anything or ask any questions before we move on. Yeah. Marlena.
So, Irene, I love your message. I just am really drawn to it. I feel it in my own every fiber of my being. I do believe this is an extraordinary time. I think that we're called to higher levels of consciousness during this time. And as far as Karen was talking about creativity, and I feel it personally. I feel so blessed during this time. Here's the question though. It's almost guilt-inducing because there is so much pain and suffering around me that my own blessedness is sometimes a little hard for me to swallow. And so how do you think about that?
Are you asking me specifically?
Yeah.
And then maybe everybody else can. I love the image of if you are standing on a bank and there are people in the quicksand, you don't help them by jumping into the quicksand, right? We have to keep our firm footing, and we then can reach in and help pull them out of the quicksand. I try to make no judgment at all about where I am, because I feel like I'm where I'm needed, and that I need to be in the house that I'm in with the people that I am with, all of that. It's extremely blessed, but it's also a grounding place that I can then help people from and give people hope. Because if I go, oh, you know what, I really don't deserve this, or I should, all that does is undermine, it just undermines. So I think that it's really important for us to acknowledge the gifts that we're given, and then give from that bank, not jump in that quicksand.
Yeah, yeah.
That was awesome, Irene. I love your metaphor.
Oh.
Karen, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, sure. You know, guilt is an emotion, right? That we create with thoughts like, I'm bad, or I shouldn't have what I have, or, you know, I don't deserve this, or I'm a bad daughter, or a bad mother, or a bad person, you know, or that I'm doing something wrong. And those are, again, just the thoughts that are constantly running through our head, and we're not really actually paying attention to them. That's how we create guilt for ourselves. And so it's simply being aware of those thoughts, noticing them, right? Again, very much it's your inner critic, basically telling you these things. And so you want to question them, kind of like what Chelsea was saying too. You know, is this the truth? Is this actually the, you know, a fact? Like, can it be proven in a court of law? No, it can't. And so it's, you know, it's something to question. And then also, kind of what like Irene was saying is that, you know, yes, we can acknowledge that it's sort of the both and, right? You know, yes, I have privilege. I have so much to be grateful for. I'm safe. And yes, other people aren't, and they are suffering. Both can be true at the same time. And it doesn't have to be judged. It doesn't have to, you know, we don't have to compare it and hurt ourselves with those kinds of thoughts. And when we do guilt ourselves, right, we're much less likely to then reach out and do and help and serve. So I'm intimately familiar with guilt and shame. So
Hey, I got you.
Karen, thank you. Thank you. I love that different look at it. How about you, Chelsea? Do you want to add something to this particular?
Well, the only thing I wanted to add is what a positive attitude Marlena has. Is that how you say your name, Marlena?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a pretty name. Because usually you don't hear people saying, oh, I'm so blessed. Usually they're more, I don't feel good, whatever. So I was like so impressed. I'm like, wow, that's such a nice state of being to be in. And the only thing I was going to say, which Karen already said, was just don't compare your emotional response to anyone else. Yay, you're in that higher consciousness. So yeah, you'll be able to help other people and lift us collectively. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to add because I too am been so blessed, and I've had a great amount of energy and creativity during this time. Everybody I know is safe. We have food. And at the very beginning, I was embarrassed about that, you know, because I was seeing how there was so much upset. And I realized, and again, I feel blessed to have the spiritual teachers and my business mentor, you know, to offer that perspective. Just sort of, I love Irene's metaphor, you know, that I feel like first and foremost, gratitude, you know, so I have just been thank you every day. I feel like life wants us to acknowledge our, you know, the gifts we receive. And then when we do that, again, like others have said, it flows more freely. You know, I notice for myself, if I'm in a place of where I don't feel deserving to receive, then there's not as much to give. And so I like to just keep thinking this energy, for whatever reason I was gifted with, and, you know, how can I help? How can I How can I, and I think helping, even as I was saying to Irene, can be simply being someone who's glowing and who's smiling and who's offering just a peaceful place for others to land. That can be a huge service. So my own teacher sometimes uses the phrase social relief, which I like. You know, when we're taking care of ourselves to the fullest, we're not asking for others to take care of us. And right now, I think that's a big piece of how we can serve too, right?
I just wanted to jump in with one thing. When you're looking at the big picture, it sometimes seems like we should do this and this and this and this. And, you know, so when this all began, I hauled out my sewing machine because I thought, well, I better be sewing some masks, right? And I have a photograph somewhere of the first attempt. I'm a fairly dexterous, but the sewing machine was like loopity, 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 loop. And so, you know what? I went, I'm not being called to make masks. There are some people who are being called to make masks. It's okay not to make masks because there are other ways that I can give. So I think it's also good to know, you know, what you should be doing from your inside out.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things to say is that which comes easily and naturally to you is valuable to others. You don't have to like bend and contort yourself to do something that's not natural and easy in order to serve.
But now I want to see those masks.
All it was one stitch. I will send you I did take a picture to make my sister laugh of the looping of the thread. That just one thing, and that was enough. I knew it was enough. I couldn't do it.
I mean, when we put the replay, please post the picture underneath.
Oh, I'll be happy to.
Everyone wants to see it now. Steve, did you have anything that you wanted to share now that you've kind of heard from everybody?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, not to put you on the spot, but if you did.
Oh, no, I enjoyed listening to the responses. And it was, I don't feel guilty. I feel blessed and I see so much suffering. And holding those both is sometimes complex, but I think we're called to do it. Holding the sorrow that is a collective sorrow around us and understanding that we are blessed and feeling grateful for that. It's a complicated thing, but I think we are called to do that.
How do you think you're doing that? Like, so how, because I think you're pointing to something hugely important. Yeah, so share with us, how do you hold that complexity?
Probably through little tiny actions. I do things like teach my grandson writing during this time when he can't be in school. I send kisses to strangers on my walks who just look so absolutely depressed and sad. And just sending them love. So it's very, very small gestures. Sometimes through my writing, I do blogging, but they're little tiny gestures, but they're there and they help me.
Yeah, and I can't help but think you said tiny gestures, but when I thought about you sending kisses, wow, that had a big impact on me. And I can only imagine if I was walking down the street and some lovely woman just sort of was blowing me kisses.
Try it sometime. It's amazing. Nobody has refused them.
They give them, they catch them in the air
and they send them back. Try it.
Beautiful. I'm curious if anybody else who's here wanted to jump into this particular part of the conversation.
I have a question for Sherry. How do you make yourself deserving of receiving? Because you mentioned that earlier.
Ooh, wow, that's a lovely question. A lot of my work has to do with gifts and giving. And I love it because to me, it's a circle of giving. I don't really differentiate between giving and receiving because a long time ago, someone said to me, I remember somebody had given me something and I did that kind of, you know, oh, no, you shouldn't have, or one of those kind of things that I used to do. And they said, you know, I really wanted to give this to you. I'm really excited. I want you to be excited to receive it. You know, please don't, you know, it takes away from my pleasure of giving. If you're not going to fully receive it. They were very nice about it, you know, but it was a great lesson in that, you know, life is always giving us things. People we love are always giving. Strangers are always giving us things. And part of the circle of giving is to sometimes be the one who's like catching it. You know, we catch the kiss and then we blow it back. So that's kind of my, Brenda, are you raising your hand?
No,
Oh, I thought
I was deep listening.
But I think it's a beautiful question, and I love to talk about that because to me, it's all the same thing. Yeah. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that piece?
I would like Marlena to send us all kisses. Thank you.
I once heard somebody, it might have been in a book, but talking about the difference between doing and getting and giving and receiving.
Ooh.
And again, I don't remember where it was or who said it, but that distinction helped me in both when I'm giving or doing. Like, am I giving or am I doing? And am I receiving or am I getting? Right? What's the energy there? And so that was helpful for me to make that distinction. And you know, it might, for however it lands for you, but that might be something to like think about the energy of those words.
Yeah. My teacher just was recently talking about taking versus receiving, which is also very energy, you know, very
maybe that's the word. Maybe it was not getting, but maybe it was taking, but it's similar. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting to think about that. Irene, I'm curious, did you want to jump in?
There's so much, as I say, there's so much wisdom here. I think this has been well covered.
Wonderful. Well, how about if we start back and we go around with our authors again, and maybe you could share with us something from, whether it's your current book or previous book, something that you feel like you want to share from a book that you've written that you just think could be a whole new topic that we bring in today. Chelsea, you want to start us off?
Well, give me an example of what you mean by bringing in a whole new topic.
Well, what I mean is it doesn't have to have anything to do with giving and receiving. It can
sure.
Hopefully still in the realm of, you know, supporting people.
Yeah. I would say we kind of have an opportunity now to examine ourselves. Like, what is the bigger invitation that's happening for me here with what's happening with the pandemic? Like, how can I grow and respond from it? And really, like, how is this happening for me rather than to me? Which I guess that's kind of similar to what we're saying, like receiving. So I think it's just kind of like, what kind of person do I want to be while this is going on? So just, those are kind of questions I've been thinking of, like, what's the invitation for me?
Yeah. And Chelsea, is that something from your grief book that, so if someone is in that grief place, would that be a question or questions to ask?
Well, kind of, and I don't have those specific questions in the book, but it is the same thing when someone passes away or some tragedy happens. We have that opportunity for personal growth. Again, we don't want that opportunity. But yeah, what is the invitation for me? How can I make meaning of the situation? How can I bring joy into the situation? How's it going to affect me for the rest of my life, you know, depending on the situation? So yeah, I guess what is the higher purpose? And I think some people probably are examining that because they, you know, are having a tough time with the pandemic, with all the different things that are happening. And for me, I actually like it because I like staying at home. So, you know, for me, I like it, but I know, I understand so many people don't. Like Karen said, you know, it's not that different for her. So yeah, it's kind of like, what, how can I benefit from this? What's the invitation?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And the reason I asked you about, because I do sense that that would also be good. I realize, and I always like to say this when we're gathered like this, that we do know that there are a lot of people who are suffering great losses, loss of life, loss of jobs, all kinds of, loss of health. And so I like the beauty of that. The word you used was invitation, so gentle. It's not kind of like I'm making it into some sort of should, well, you should look at it this way, but it's simply such a beautiful, gentle, compassionate invitation.
Sure, sure. And I know we were using the word should earlier, and that's like one of my least favorite words, should, especially with grievers, because there's or anything you're experiencing, because there's so much conditioning in society. You should do this, you should grieve this way, you should act this way, you should get over this quicker. So notice how they're all should statements, and that's what we're conditioned to do when others have said, yeah, what comes to me naturally, how you guys were saying that earlier, to get rid of the shoulds and how can I serve naturally?
Love that.
Or yeah, how can I grieve? How can I get better naturally? Because I think all of us know really how to heal ourselves when we give ourselves permission, how Karen had mentioned earlier.
Thank you. Thank you. Irene, how about you? Something you want to share from your book?
I feel very much like I'm being called to speak about optimism these days. And I don't know, you know what, I could read a little section about being glad if you want me to read, or I can just speak to it. Because I think a lot of people are having a kind of challenge right now in terms of what kind of a bright side could there be to this, right?
Yeah.
It's like what on earth? And the way we're all talking about this time period, I a couple of weeks ago woke up in the morning with a phrase in my head that I just went, oh, that is how I want to think about this time period. And that's how I want to share thoughts about this time period. So it's very tempting culturally for us to say, oh, this is now we're entering the Great Depression, a Great Recession. Now to look at things in terms of finances. And that's certainly the way a lot of people are looking at it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a useless approach. The phrase that came into my head was, this is the abundance in this time period this is the great compassion.
Oh,
we are seeing compassion rising globally in a way that it has never done before. And it's not just in healthcare workers, though God bless them, there they are. It is in the people you walk by on the street, people will blow you kisses. There is compassion that's all over the place. And I think this is the thing that's taking human consciousness to the next level. A couple of weeks ago, what really, now it's more than a couple of weeks ago, in mid-March, when all of this began to happen, and I looked around and I looked at the financial system and I looked at the educational system, I went, this is all melting. All the systems we know are melting. The cultural system is melting, everything. And it's like, whoa, where's the solid ground? And I thought, one of the things I do is I teach poetry to kids to connect them to nature. And I didn't know until a couple of years ago that a caterpillar, as we all know, the caterpillar's life cycle, chomp, 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 consume, 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 does nothing but consume. Sounds familiar? And then it spins the chrysalis. It's absolutely still. And when it is in the chrysalis, this I did not know, it liquefies. It turns into caterpillar juice. Now, not everything. There are these little things called imaginal cells, which I just love that name, imaginal. And these are the things that turn into butterfly eyes and antenna and butterfly wings. So they're there. Interestingly enough, when they first appear in the caterpillar's immune system go, get out of here, no. But eventually, the system accommodates them. So I feel like we as writers, we as artists, we as communicators are those imaginal cells holding the vision for what the human race is going to become when we come out of the chrysalis of this time period.
Wow.
amen.
Yes, amen.
I think you would be an amazing teacher of poetry to kids just by the way you showed up. It was gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. You know, I have to do my first online teaching next week with these kids, which I've never done before. I'm like, I'm so used to doing give and take with the kids, but so we'll see what happens. But that is one of my big challenges right now. So that you have comforted me with that thought.
Hey, Irene, I would still love to hear. You said you had a little passage to read. I think that'd be fun if you are still game.
Oh, sure. I'm totally game.
And then Karen, get ready because you're up to bat next, just so you know.
Well, this is the introduction to the book. It's called A Question of Gladness, because people will go like, well, why is that? You know, so a question of gladness. Why is it even important to be glad to be human? We may be the only species that questions gladness. The fuchsia-tinted alstroemeria at my side has no second thoughts about gladly and extravagantly expressing herself. If cells weren't glad to be cells, could they metabolize? Could they have the little cellular barn raisings that lead to the creation of petals or peanuts or pineal glands? If atoms were ashamed of being atoms, could they even join atomic hands to make a cell for a while? They'd skip the dance and stay home. No whirling around tonight, honey. I'm just not up to making a cell. Why bother anyway? I'm not that great at doing it. And after all, cells only die, so why even make one? Humans cannot comprehend the larger body we compose, though we feel its organs in a symphony orchestra, a sports team, a school, a hospital, a movie set. These larger selves need us to function just as we need the beings who compose our bodies. There's great joy when these larger bodies function well, because functioning well is the nature of nature. Of course, any cell, plant, or animal will tell you the purpose of life is not function, but joy.
Oh.
Just ask my flamboyant alstroemeria. This coursing sense of connected well-being or gladness is the default setting of each living creature, and doubtless the inanimates as well. If it's all spinning particles, is anything really inanimate? The holographic fractal beauty of physical reality is that gladness is important to each, and each is important to all.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you.
Oh, wow, Irene. Great.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It brings me joy, as you can tell, to share this with people.
I love that. I love that. I mean, it would have been awesome anyway, you know, had anybody read it, but the way that you read it, the way that you just embody it, I love that. We got the whole experience. I'm glad that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
Woo! All right, Karen, what you got for us?
So, yeah, after that, no, it's interesting because you know, as I mentioned earlier, maybe, you know, there's this book, which is the creativity book, and how I've been sort of expanding the definition of creativity for myself. But then my previous work, which isn't previous, I mean, it's still ongoing, is the work around healing our relationships with our mothers.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
And why that's important. Yes, on a micro level, right? The one woman and one daughter and one mother, healing that, but on the macro level, which is, and when I say this, I might not say it very elegantly, but you know what? If women are going to step up higher, you know, we can't be wow about our moms anymore, right? We need to be like kind of grow up here, you know. And you know, I've been living that in my own self, and then meshing that with what is creativity on a feminine level, and understanding that creativity is, as I said earlier, not about drawing and singing and dancing, although it can be. It is literally summoning all emotion in our bodies in service of what we want to create in the world. And to me, there is a direct connection between emotion, power, and creativity. It's like a direct line. And, you know, women not having been valued equally in the world forever, right? That wound in our DNA that gets passed down from generation to generation to generation. That's why that's sort of at the core of difficult mother-daughter relationships often. And so how can we, in using this time, inhabit that creativity, that understanding of creativity, to imagine the world that, you know, Irene was talking about in Chelsea, like after this, right? It's now up to us to summon, and some of the emotions that we might choose to summon are not the pretty emotions, right? It's going to be anger. There's going to be anger there, right? There's going to be all the emotions, and to not be afraid of them, to be able to lean in and be uncomfortable and not be ashamed of our emotions and not shut ourselves down in service to what we want after this. So that's what I'm
Woo!
these days.
Yeah.
Let's have another amen sister to that one.
How do you have people summon their emotions, especially the emotions we don't like? Because usually people don't want to summon those emotions. So what do you suggest? Because I heard you say lean into them.
If you were to close your eyes right now and think about something sad that happened, you would be able to summon the sensations of sadness in your body. If you were to think about, you know, someone that you just, you know, some being that just lights you up, right? No matter what, it's total unconditional love for this being. And you close your eyes and you think of that, you can summon the feeling, the sensations of unconditional love in your body. Same thing with anger. I'm sure there's somebody out there that you can think of, or some situation, right?
I don't know.
And you can summon the sensations of anger. You can summon the sensations of shame, of jealousy, of like all the shades, right, of emotion. And when we get to know how they feel in our bodies, literally, like I'm feeling them now, like, cause I'm, you know, I love this idea, and I love to feel certain feelings. And that to me is the essence of creativity, because when you feel a feeling on purpose, you can then use it. It's like the fuel.
Okay.
And so it's that connection, as you were saying earlier, right? That when we think certain thoughts, we feel certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we, as women especially, I think it's incumbent on us to practice that.
And how does that bring power? Because you said that kind of will bring you power.
Was it etymology? Is that the word for the history of words?
Yeah.
The word power means simply to be able.
Oh.
So, right. So if I am able to summon emotions that I know, like when I'm feeling a certain way, I'm going to show up a certain way.
Got it.
You know, when I'm feeling shame, I'm going to show up differently than when I'm feeling ecstatic or joy or anger, you know, and sometimes anger is going to serve me the way, if I'm intentional with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean, because with grievers, I do that. Also, like I try to have them embody the emotions of joy, just to let them know you're human, you can experience all the emotions, and they're so used to being in the emotions they don't like. I'm like, no, that unconditional love, like when your child's born, or the example you're giving. Yeah, so I know where you're going. Yeah, that's lovely.
And because women have been told that certain emotions aren't okay. It's not okay to be angry. It's not okay, it's not safe. And if we're, I feel like, again, it's incumbent on us to be okay with those feelings.
Yeah, like all the unusual feelings we're having during the pandemic, like the fear, anger, whatever is being taken away. Yeah.
Or the opposite, right? I think, which we were talking about earlier on, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's really touched me what Karen's been saying, because I've been thinking a lot about just, presence. I practice Zen, and the life force that comes from simply being present to whatever is authentically there, whether it's grief or whether it's joy, and just allowing it, and it's Irene's glad to be human. It's all of it. But that if I'm feeling joyful and I'm repressing that because it's the wrong feeling at the moment, or if I'm grieving because that's the wrong feeling at the moment, there's no power, there's no life force, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think we tend to think of emotions as like happening to us without our input. And it can certainly feel that way, but when you start to practice them, feeling them on purpose and knowing that you can summon them, right? Then there's a little bit more ownership of it.
Yeah. Rachel,
I have a question for Karen. Like, I would tend to more practice like joy or gratitude, but do you specifically practice the emotions we tend to shy away from, like anger? Like, I really wouldn't want to practice that one.
Yes.
But I get your point.
I want to be resilient, right? I want to know that I can feel any feeling and be okay. Like the earth's not going to open up and swallow me whole if I feel ashamed of something.
Sure. Yep.
And so, like, to me, that's there's strength in that and resilience in that. And also, life is 50-50. And I don't want to necessarily slap a smiley face on a situation when don't want to. Maybe I want to be pissed off.
Rachel, did you have something you wanted to add? Rachel, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I saw you raise your hand. Did you want to add something?
Oh, just on that topic, in my book, Letters from a Better Me, I use letters to trigger people's emotions. I use them to trigger the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And I start with the bad. And the reason I do that is because if we can't see it, we can't heal it. If we don't acknowledge it and let it come out and see that it's there, it can't be healed because it will stay unconscious. So to me, it was very important to do that so that people can see all of it, because you can't heal it. You can't be empowered until you take away what's disempowering you. And that has to do with seeing all those, as Karen was saying, the suppressed feelings from like moms and the generations before us, and all the things that have been passed down to us over and over that we kept feeding unconsciously. We can't heal that unless we see it. So seeing it is so important.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, I used to think I have to get rid of shame. Like I don't want to ever feel shame. I have to heal shame. And once I made peace with the fact that shame will not kill me, and I'm conscious to it most of the time. I mean, again, it's a work in progress. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, but it's not, I don't want to shut off any experience.
Yeah.
And if I'm conscious of it, then it's like that. When it's unconscious, that's when it plays out and it's driving your life and you don't realize it. And you're like, why is all this bad stuff happening? But when you're conscious to it,
it's a different process once you are conscious of it and feel it fully. When you experience it again, it's different.
Yeah.
It's not disempowering to feel it. Right. And that's what's so beautiful about when you become conscious of your feelings. That's what I love about the whole process, is because once you see it and you're healing that residual stuff that isn't present, then you can feel it fully and see it fully. And that's where the gifts come from. That's where the gifts of it come from. So yeah. I love what everybody's saying here, by the way. I have had my mouth is going to hurt so bad from smiling at
Great,
The willingness to go to the dark side, you know?
Well, oh, go ahead, Irene.
I was just going to say, I loved what you said about power. You know, power as in being able. I just wanted to add this little tidbit that whenever the electricity goes out, I make a point of saying the electricity went out. We are without electricity. We are not without power. We are never without power.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Oh, that is the perfect place that unfortunately we do have to stop, but that's such a great place to stop. Irene, thank you. I have just so much enjoyed all of this. Thank you. Thank you to our wonderful authors, to Karen and Irene and Chelsea for being here. Thank you to Brenda and Debbie from Mango Publishing for bringing us all together, for all of your support, for the millions of things you do. Thank you to our guests, some of whom are other authors. And please come back. We're here every Wednesday at this time with wonderful Mango Publishing authors. Thank you all so much. We'll have the replay on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Terrific.
Thank you so much. This is a
Thanks.
lot of fun.
This was great fun. You guys are great.
Right. Let's all blow each other kisses.
All right.
Thank you. You've influenced us. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.